All right, so first things first, some of this might be a refresher, but I'm just going to go through it so we don't have any confusion. Your body's primary source of energy is ATP, right? We have this molecule called adenosine triphosphate, and all you need to know is that it has these three phosphate group. And when one of the phosphate breaks off, it creates energy, and you can break it off, I'm pretty sure 3 times. But overall, when I say ATP, I'm talking about this, which creates energy, and that energy is usually what will bind to your muscle. This is a very basic picture of, here is a sarcomere, and it's the ATP attaches to, this is just like literally the smallest muscle cell you can get. The ATP binds to this muscle cell, it opens, it grabs the other muscle, and then it drops that, and then it will contract. And so it slides the filaments and creates muscle contraction. So as you can see, any type of muscle contraction at the smallest level is going to require ATP as energy to create muscle contractions. So really big muscle contractions with very explosive movements require a lot of ATP. But we're going to look at the basic understanding here is your metabolism needs a second to get started to do this oxidative in the green. So real quick, we'll go through the first part, which this is what you primarily are focusing on, is the fast explosive movements happen within 0 to 60 seconds, right? Or, this might be 0 to 10 seconds as well, but usually the very quick, think about 100-meter dash, Olympic lift, any 1 rep max is going to be this 0-second period. And that uses any ATP that is already stored in your system, because your body is constantly having ATP created. So any ATP that your body has already had created will get used up immediately, as well as your creatine phosphate. And if you know creatine, you know it's a supplement that people claim, oh, it makes you big and strong. The reality is creatine phosphate, and this phosphate can be added to the ATP to create the phosphate group. So it's pretty much like free energy for your body. So your creatine stores will build up in your body, and you'll break off the phosphate groups in the ATP and get energy, right? So creatine gives your body this fast energy, and that's why it makes your body stronger when you take it, because you get these really fast, explosive 1 rep max PR type experience when you have a boost in this first 10-second energy, right? And lo and behold, where is creatine found most in a natural diet? It's found in red meat. So this is one of the reasons carnivore diet is actually, in my opinion, even better for people who are explosive athletes. Right. Next, we will look at glycolysis, which is where everyone in the community of sports thinks, okay, we need glucose, we need carbohydrates to burn to give us energy for this 60 seconds to 120 seconds, right? And this is, again, this graph is if you're exerting maximal effort. So if you exert maximal effort for more than this first 60 seconds, then your body, I think it's 10 seconds, but yeah, your body's going to switch over from burning ATP and creatine, because by then you'll run out of ATP and creatine, to it'll start to burn any glucose in your blood. And the reason everyone thinks you need carbohydrates is because the glucose in your blood, they think, oh, it comes from a carbohydrate, right? So they think, oh, blood sugar, it is equal to performance, so I need to boost my blood sugar and I need to eat a lot of sugar, right? When in reality, that's not true, because glucose can be created in your body from, glucose can be created in your body from a substrate like protein or fat. And this might be a little overwhelming here, but this is an entire map of your metabolism, and it, as you can see, it's very extensive. But mainly, I'm just going to briefly show you. Up here we have glucose molecule, right, which comes from a carbohydrate, and it gets transformed all the way down here, creating ATP down to this right here, which this cycle here is usually called the Krebs cycle, citric acid cycle, yada yada. But this cycle creates the most amount of ATP in your entire body. So everything wants to run this cycle and this loop. And a lot of the precursors for this cycle are different types of proteins and different types of fats. And over here, this is all fat oxidation, will all feed into this loop to give your body maximal energy. And the glucose feeds down as well, but glucose has to turn into pyruvate, which sometimes turns into this oxaloacetate. But the fat and it always gets turned into the acetyl-CoA and the citrate, which are very, very good for generating energy. And again, this is getting like very in depth, but pretty much what I want to show you here is the whole reason you use glucose is to get it down to this molecule called pyruvate. Now, pyruvate can be turned into lactate, and that's like the lactic acid that you get. You build up lactic acid after working out for a long time. Your muscles feel hot and heavy. That will actually get recycled back into pyruvate, or it will get recycled back into glucose in your liver, which is very cool. And again, another way is that pyruvate will be turned into alanine, which is a protein, and the alanine will go to your liver, and then the alanine will be converted into glucose, and then the glucose will come back down and be converted into pyruvate, right? And so pretty much this idea that you need to have blood sugar for this one operation of burning glucose is false, because you will create glucose automatically, and this is a better representation. So we see ATP stores, and then your creatine is the PC system. This goes for the first 10 seconds. Then your lactic acid system will kick in, because you generate all this waste product, and lactic acid takes it, moves it to the liver, converts that back into glucose, throws that into your blood system, and it creates more energy for you to use, right? And again, this is looking at your overall performance. So this is the idea that we are doing an explosive movement repetitively for more than 10 seconds, now more than 60 seconds here. And by the time you get past 60 seconds, if you're still doing an explosive movement, your overall performance is already super decreased, right? And then your aerobic system kicks in, which is like burning fat and energy and all that stuff, right? But the big thing is, okay, let's say you do a burst of energy for 2 seconds. What restores that ATP in your system? It's going to be that massive cycle, right? This massive cycle is going to generate ATP to restore it. This pyruvate is going to turn into lactate and restore the glucose in your system. It's going to turn to alanine and restore the glucose in your system. And even there are processes from which the fat and the protein get turned into glucose through a gluconeogenesis, which means the creation of new glucose molecules. But again, like, you see how complex this whole thing is, and somebody's just trying to tell you to eat carbs. Like, they don't even understand this. They just understand that sugar is going to give me energy because big pharma told me so or whatever. And also, you think about sugar's the most marketable thing for people to sell. Anyways, I'm getting off topic, but so let's say so we said, okay, 2 seconds. Let's say you go 10 seconds. Your creatine system is going to be depleted, but your creatine system also recovers, right? And then your lactic acid system, maybe you are sprinting max effort for more than 60 seconds. Your lactic acid system is also going to recover, right? So all these systems are able to recover, and there is no requirement for the consumption of carbohydrates to replenish any of these systems, right? And even looking at like this system, glycolysis, you will create glucose in your body. Again, like, it's not a requirement to consume it externally. And then obviously here we have this oxidative, which is green. It means you are burning fat, you are creating the maximal amount of energy. It's the sweet spot. It's where you want to be. But again, like, these data are kind of guesses and based off different things, and like, we can't really 100% say this is exactly what it looks like inside of your body. And I strongly believe that people who are carnivore and they're fat adapted will probably use these substrates a little bit differently and be able to utilize more energy from their fat stores. But either way, yeah, that's pretty much my explanation. And if you have any more questions, feel free to ask. Sorry the video is so long.